Mark, 30 seconds until airtime. Once again, stations, if you encounter technical issues during the broadcast, please call the Oregon Studio hotline at 336-831-0864. Stations, your final time cue will be with 15 seconds until airtime. Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
Oregon is going to the Final Four.
The following is a Learfield presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
This is Duck Insider.
These are good problems to have, right? So much success that you have more than one place to be.
Mabry, touchdown! Oregon.
Off the dribble, launches, and hits the three! Oregon leads!
What a great opportunity it is to be able to play at University of Oregon.
I'm just incredibly proud to be a part of something like this.
She wants another three. Oh, three in a row!
Swing and a miss! Oregon is headed to the Super Regional.
Fans being out there making this a great impact.
We are so privileged and so fortunate. We get to see all these young people. We get to see this incredible growth, which is what college is all about.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Now let's go live to the Country Financial Studio to talk Oregon Duck Athletics.
Yes! Yes! It is a Halloween episode of Duck Insider here in the Country Financial Studio. Scott Phillips is here, or is he? Who knows? Stormtrooper Phillips is here. He's got a costume on deck wherever we are. That lives on his desk, by the way. That mask lives on his desk. I really considered dressing up and hosting the show in costume today, and then I figured nothing's more spooky than this. And so I just had to host the show the way I always do. But we've got a great show for you today as the guys just hit the road, just loaded up the bus a little less than an hour ago on their way to the airport, on their way to Michigan. And we also are talking a little women's basketball because women's basketball season starts on Monday. There's an exhibition coming up in just a few days. Kelly Graves talked with the media earlier today. Also, Joey yesterday sat down with one of the members of the Wolverine broadcast team, Brian Boesch, to preview the matchup of Ducks versus Wolverines as the number one team in the country, Oregon, is going up against the defending national champions in Michigan. Whole lot going on. Also, cross country will be in action tomorrow morning. So will women's tennis at the Duck Invitational. We'll get to all of those throughout the course of the show. But no time to waste because we have a lot of content. And an exhilarating conversation between Joey and Brian Boesch from the Michigan Sports Network. They sat down, they talked yesterday, and Halloween, you know, you dress up, you bear a resemblance of something else, and neither one of these guys had to dress up. I think there might be a little bit of resemblance. I'll leave it up to you guys to confirm if you think Joey, Brian Boesch, they were doing a little Halloween festivities. Maybe. All right, let's get to the conversation.
All right, so we were just talking before we pressed record that these conversations with our new Big Ten brethren have been fun for me. I don't know if they've been fun for everyone else, and we're going to ask the start and at the end. For Brian, who joins us from the Michigan broadcast team, and first of all, for those of you that are watching the show, I would really just like everyone to look at the hat that Brian is wearing. Nicely done, sir.
Here's the reality, Joey. I have a pretty large head, and this was the only hat that was sold in Houston last year that has the flex fit. I can't do the ones with the buttons, and I don't like the actual here's your size because I'm kind of a tweener. So it was one of one. I do like the look. It's positive. But, yeah, there's no – it just looks like the team I covered participated in the – there's no national championship, but it is a slick logo.
Yeah,
I do like it.
Yeah, I like it. So those of you who are our radio audience, Brian is wearing a college football playoff hat. We're familiar with it from Oregon. Of course, last year a great run, and we're going to talk about that. Brian Boesch joining us from the Michigan broadcast team. He's got the call coming up from the Big House. What time does your pregame show start?
12:30 Eastern, 9:30 Pacific. Yeah, we get in there early. It's a lot of fun. Those hours go so fast.
Yes.
It's especially when you have a lot to talk about, and certainly that was It's funny, last year I feel like we didn't have as much to talk about until November because Michigan was heavy favorites in their first 8-9 games of the year. This year there's been more to talk about, but it hasn't been as fun.
Right.
And I know you all have had plenty to talk about because what Oregon's doing is very similar to what Michigan did last year. It took a couple weeks, but you guys, I think you're the number one team in the country, not just based on ranking now, but I think you all are the natty favorites.
Now you got to still prove it, though, right? That's the next step, as Michigan did. So I want to unpack a few things with you, but first, Brian, we have a tradition. We ask you to tell your 2-minute life story the first time you come on the show. The 2-minute life story. Now, we're competitive. The goal is as close to 2 minutes as possible. You can go a little over, a little under, but 2-minute life story. The best we've ever had is a 1:59.56. Wow. Second best we've ever had is 2:01.42. Now, you're a broadcaster, so you've got this internal clock. I find that broadcasters, quarterbacks, and point guards tend to be the best for the various shot clock, play clock, and segment clock reasons. Brian, the 2-minute life story. Go.
All right. Well, just so you know, I'll preface it a little bit. I got the stopwatch out. I'm smart. Couldn't do that.
Oh,
yeah.
Come
you never
on.
said I couldn't. You never said I couldn't. I'll turn it
true.
off. Here, I'll turn it off. So I'll go 1:45 with the life story.
All right.
I never really thought I was going to be a broadcaster. I always grew up loving sports, growing up in Northeast Ohio, surprisingly, as now a broadcaster with the Michigan Network. But grew up a diehard Cleveland sports fan in the 90s when the then Indians were elite. So my childhood memories were going to Cleveland baseball games. It's where I feel most nostalgic, most at home. Went to college at Ohio University, not Ohio State. Very important distinction here in beautiful Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I met a professor who believed in me in broadcasting before I believed in myself. That parlayed itself into opportunities in Athens, then opportunities in minor league baseball. And ultimately now at Michigan, where I took over for Matt Shepard, who got the TV broadcaster role with the Tigers. I had filled in some and with Michigan and came up here. My first season was the year before the pandemic. So my first year of basketball play-by-play broadcasting ended when the tournament was canceled in 2020, but been here as the director of broadcasting since then, do the pregame, postgame for football. Love what I do. It's such a blast to be here. Ann Arbor's great. My now wife, her and I got married in April. We live in Ann Arbor. We have 2 dogs, 2 cats. She is a veterinarian, so 100 times more important than what I do. And yeah, we really enjoyed our time in Ann Arbor. She's a North Carolinian as a native, but she's embraced it. She's enjoyed it up here. And yeah, I'm just really blessed to have a job that I like. With a loving family and a great wife. So, yeah, I'm blessed.
That was pretty good. What do you think after that?
I think I was stretching a little bit at the end because I thought I needed a little bit more. I would say I was like 150-ish.
Yeah, you're at 151.5. That's pretty good.
I couldn't say synonyms for blessed for another. I probably thought I needed another 5. What I should have done was on the Michigan Sports Network from Learfield.
Yeah, that's right. Brian Boesch joining us. That was a good one. That was good.
I will say, so on the timing thing, something that's unique about our pregame show is that we have it's flagship only for the first 2 hours. And on the flagship, it is a news, weather,
right.
Every 10 minutes on the 10 type of station. So they have traffic on the 8s. So we still do that for those first 2 hours because we're only on their station. And I have made it a point of pride to ensure that we never miss that. We've only missed it once where we've been on the 9s and not the 8s. And it was because someone interrupted me while going to it by complimenting how good the broadcast sounded, which is ironic. But even more so to take you behind the curtain, when we were out there for basketball, last early December, football was in the Big Ten championship game. So I had pre-recorded the pregame show and then called the basketball game. And I timed it up to a way to where we still hit every traffic. You have a minute buffer, but you have it every 8 minutes. So a guy you know really well, Rob Joyce, our studio host, was like, man, that's impressive.
Yeah,
it's a point of pride.
Look, timing is everything, right? The worst thing, and I've done this hosting our pregame show, the worst thing that you can do is you're running a little behind and suddenly you take a 2-minute break, you come back, keys to the game are like 2.5 minutes, you take another 2-minute break, and somebody tuned in for commercials only and was like, dude. So I get it. Now, Serious question, though. Flagship only, that means you're the local station in Ann Arbor. So traffic on the 8's really important on a game day, Brian.
Yes, we do not miss it. We still do it on the road, so I always find that to be funny. But yes, for game days.
Wait. Do you do the traffic only in Michigan, or do you do it for where you are also?
I don't even do it. We just send music to the flagship, so we don't even hear it from the logistics of it. We just send the music. They know it's about 45 seconds, and they talk over it, and then it's a billboard back to us, and we go. So I just hear the music. I have that if I'm going in a dream or whatever, or a nightmare, and that's sometimes like the ambient noise while I'm, getting chased by a dragon or something like that.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I hear our bump back music in my nightmares sometimes, thinking I need to get to the studio or I need to get to a game. I'm with you.
If you ever wondered what having a conversation off air was like with Joey Mack, you just got about 7 minutes of it, and we've got more from the conversation between Joey Mack and Brian Boesch. I promise at some point they will preview this game, but it'll have to be after the return and some of that bump back music when we take a timeout on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, we're more than just an award-winning golf course and practice facility. Our events team offers all-inclusive event pricing that allows us to take care of all the details while you enjoy your event. Our indoor and outdoor venues offer you a wide variety of fully staffed options that put the focus on you. From weddings to business and social events, at Shadow Hills Country Club Events Center, you get the benefits of a resort atmosphere and amenities in a peaceful country setting, just minutes from downtown Eugene. Call for a tour today or visit shadowhillsevents.com.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
All right, son. Time to put out this campfire.
Dad, we learned about this in school.
Oh, did you now? Okay. What's first?
Smokey Bear said to.
First drown it with a bucket of water, then stir it with a shovel.
Wow. You sound just like him.
Then he said.
If it's still warm, then do it again.
Where can I learn all this?
It's all on SmokeyBear.com with other wildfire prevention tips, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and I dedicate a lot of my time going fast. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Ryan Milano with you here in the Country Financial Studio on a Thursday. It's Duck Insider brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. And there's just something to be said about guys like Brian Boesch and Joey Mack who wear as many hats in the broadcast realm as these guys do for their respective universities. Their brains are almost on the same wavelength. It's like it's a mirrored image talking to each other, and I think it's a really intriguing conversation. Part 2 of the conversation between Joey Mack and Brian Boesch of the Michigan Sports Network. Here it is.
So last year, I mean, obviously a momentous run for Michigan. What was the high last year, and what was the transition like in the coaching staff at the head spot in the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, to me, again, as an Ohio-born Wolverine, I think the high will always be when you beat Ohio State. And it's interesting because in this run that Michigan has been on of 3 straight Big Ten championships, the first 2 years, they pretty handily beat Ohio State in the snow flurries in Ann Arbor in 2021, 5 touchdowns from Hassan Haskins, to 2022 going down to Columbus and really taking care of business, winning by a bunch, airing it out for really the first time all year. Last season, Ohio State almost won in Ann Arbor. They had the football into Michigan territory in the final minute. So that interception by an Ohio-born Wolverine, Rod Moore, who had come to Michigan at a time where, I mean, there was no doubt who was going to win that game every year, and it was the Buckeyes. They had dominated the series. So the uniqueness of that play plus Blake Corum's touchdown run, the play after Zach Zinter suffered the gruesome injury, and the fact that, I think every fan base has some special components to it. I think one of the things that's really special about Michigan is that fans know the guys who do the dirty work. The fact that fans knew Zach Zinter was the one down and started chanting Zach Zinter's name pretty soon after he went down. Everyone knew at the time it was bad. And it's late in the season, so you're not having some dreams of, oh, well, maybe he can come back later in the year. Like, you kind of knew in the moment. So for that to happen, and then Corum to run for the touchdown, Corum was kind of the guy to say, I'm coming back first after the loss to TCU. So those two for me will always be at the top. I know a lot of Michigan fans think the Rose Bowl and the Alabama win and that's obviously, those are amazing moments too. But, ultimately, even going back to the Bo Schembechler era, you beat Ohio State, and then you can kind of figure everything else out from there. So for this team to be able to do that and then finish the deal against Alabama and then Washington was special. But it started there because, as we talked about earlier, there wasn't much to discuss on the field for Michigan because the schedule was super easy. They did not schedule hard in the non-conference, which they did this year and will be largely moving forward. But yeah, the drama was in the coaching conversations, the suspensions, the Connor Stallions stuff. And then in terms of the coaching decision, Jim Harbaugh had been flirting with the NFL for multiple years, and it had he left after the first Big Ten championship, I have no idea who would have been the head coach after Jim. But it was a no-brainer with Sharon. Has it been flawless so far? No. But what he did against Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State to finish the season, he was the offensive line coach, the offensive coordinator, the interim head coach. And for him to go 3-0 in that stretch, which was massive game, trap game on the road, and then the biggest game, it was a no-brainer. And Michigan's not a job you normally grow into, but he does have to grow into it some. And this year there have been some growing pains, but it was a no-brainer. And I think he has as good of a chance as anybody to kind of do what the Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma was of building from a really good era as a first-time head coach and going from there.
To that point, what was the preseason expectation? And maybe it's a different answer internally and externally. What were the preseason expectations?
Internally, they were still really high. And I think what externally people leaned on was the fact that, hey, it's a 12-team playoff. You don't have to go undefeated. Because I don't think there was anybody in this community among the fan base who thought Michigan was going to go undefeated with this schedule, especially now as you look back. No one had Illinois circled as a tough game. It was. No one had Indiana circled as a tough game. They're undefeated. So from my standpoint, I always reserve judgment until the Texas game. I said, I think they're talented. I didn't know what the quarterback situation was going to be, but there was very little chance that Texas was going to be a non-factor nationally. So you had that game at home week 2. Here's your chance to prove it. So for me, it was kind of seeing what that looked like. And I think certainly in September, Michigan was fortunate to get away with a couple of wins. Their worst performance of the year was Arkansas State. They would not have beaten, I don't think, anybody on their schedule this year had they played like that against any other team. And then they probably should have lost to Minnesota, or at least gave up the football. They got lucky with a bang call and an onside kick with Minnesota possessing all of the momentum. So, this has been a difficult season, certainly below anybody's expectations. But at the very least, they held firm in the in-state rivalry. They'll be underdogs. Obviously, they're underdogs this week. They'll be underdogs in Columbus at the end of the year. But at the very least, they got that Michigan State one, and we'll see if that parlays itself into a good performance on Saturday and a finish that won't matter in the national conversation, but I think could set the tone for what they hope to be a reload in 2025.
Well, and the talent's there even after so many departures that were such highly skilled players from a national championship. I'll put it that way, right? I mean, the talent's there to be beating some people.
That's I think, what is probably frustrating for Michigan fans and for people in the program is, Yeah, there aren't many teams like that Georgia 2-year run where they lost a ton and then rebuilt and were better in 2022 when they won their second straight. But you have a foundation of 4 likely first-round picks in Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham along the defensive line, Will Johnson, the best cornerback in the country, and Colson Loveland, the tight end, the Idaho native. And then you've got one of the cover guys on the video game, Donovan Edwards, who came into the season as one of the top running backs in the country. And the only reason why he wasn't getting first-round conversation is because, outside of the unicorn, right, the Bijan Robinson or this year probably the Ashton Genty, you don't get drafted in the first round as a running. So you had 5 guys there as a foundation that rebuilding teams just don't normally get. So that's certainly a missed opportunity. But there were flaws on this team that it would have been tough for any good foundation to have overcome.
Yeah, well, and every team goes through the ups and downs, right? And the nice thing is that the up from last year was a pretty doggone high up there on the roller coaster. So
that's what I've told people around here, because it's been a frustrating year. But I said, just imagine if Jake Thaw, he was the punt returner on that play late in regulation against Alabama, he fumbled or muffed the punt. If he doesn't recover it, think about how this feels, right? Because that 23 team was motivated by the fact that they lost in 22 as a touchdown favorite to TCU. If that happens again and you graduate 13 NFL draft picks, the feeling is terrifying because you don't feel like you missed one opportunity to set you up for the one you took advantage of. You missed 2 massive opportunities.
Right.
So it's one of those where, everybody wants a dynasty. They want to win every single year, right? But as this 12-team playoff becomes more known, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for any team to go undefeated in a single season, and it's going to be tough to keep the motivation for a fan base. If you win a national championship, man, you got the high, right?
Right.
There's a reason why when it comes to NIL, there have been programs like you all, like Ohio State, like some others where, there's that pep in the step because of how close you all are. That was where Michigan was last offseason. And the investment was there, and the results came.
Yeah, there's so many external factors, and then you have to win on the field under tremendous pressure, right? And especially in the 12-team playoff and the conference realignment era, you're getting marquee matchups in the regular season way more often than we got before.
I think this is a great point that both Joey and Brian are making in terms of the war of attrition that a season like a 12-team playoff can provide. National champions might play 15, 16 games in a season. It's the longest college football season we've ever seen, and to be able to battle through that war of attrition, you need depth, you need connection, you need growth, you need toughness, you need a lot of the character traits that Coach Lanning preaches to his team. There's a lot more coming in terms of the X's and O's of the conversation and the game that is coming up on Saturday at 12:30 between Oregon and Michigan. That will be on the other side in this conversation with Joey Mack and Brian Boesch when we return on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, at Country Financial, they make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, auto, or more, their representatives will take the time to understand your specific needs and explain what options work best for you. Worry less and feel more confident knowing you're covered. Visit countryfinancial.com to get started today. Experience more with Country Financial.
Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
Kids ask their parents a lot of questions.
Why can't people fly?
Gravity.
Is the moon really made of cheese?
Yep, cream cheese.
When can I move into a big kid's car seat?
For some questions, parents may not have the answer, but that's okay. They can't know everything, but knowing the right seat for their age and size will help protect them in a car crash. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Where do babies come from?
Good luck, Dad. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
I'm coming home to the place that I remember. Back to the land of my first love. Would you spread wide your arms for this wayward son? I left my heart in Oregon.
Welcome back on Duck Insider here in the Country Financial Studio. Duck Insider brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. We're having lively conversations in here. We'll touch on it a little bit later. But first, we have to close out the conversation between Joey Mack and Brian Boesch of the Michigan Sports Network, previewing the game between the #1 Oregon Ducks and the defending national champion Michigan Wolverines. Should be a big-time matchup as Oregon goes on the road to the Big Cows. Wheels up just a few minutes ago for Oregon and the football team. All right, let's get to part 3 of the conversation.
On this team, you talked a bit about what they've gone through. What is the offensive identity of this team as we sit here heading into the Oregon game? Because I feel like the identity, Brian, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's changed a little bit for the Wolverines.
I don't think it's established, and I think they took strides in the win over Michigan State to figure it out, but it's still not finalized, and it's going to be November when you all come to town. So I'll put it to you like this. Last year, and really that run of 3 years, Michigan's identity came from its ability to control the line of scrimmage. Whether it was Aiden Hutchinson and what he brought to the table in that 2021 season, changing the culture here, or to just the depth that they had at defensive line. And then offensively, they won the Joe Moore Award back-to-back years and then had a really good O-line again last season that they just weren't going to give it to them again, especially after the O-line did not play well in either of the playoff games. Michigan could have had the best offensive line in the history of college football. They weren't going to win it 3 straight years. And so the top 6 guys from that offensive line left. Their swing tackle went to the NFL, and Trente Jones, he's since retired. He got a brief cup of coffee in the league and then gave it up. Miles Hinton, Michigan's left tackle this year, who we have 2 offensive linemen on our broadcast. They both say he's been the best offensive lineman. He was probably the 8th most valuable offensive lineman last season, and he's been injured. So you have that type of change up front. When you have a team in Michigan that ran 32 straight running plays at Penn State to win last November, had one of the best 1-2 punches in Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards at running back in recent college football memory the last 2 seasons. You change it that significantly. Coupling that with 3 different starting quarterbacks in 8 games, you don't have an identity. And I think this past game, they showed that they have the ability to execute at a level to win against an average to slightly above average Big Ten team like Michigan State is. And Michigan State's done a really nice job to go from what they were last year, which was nowhere close to that, to around middle of the pack. But that's not nearly enough to do it against an Oregon, an Indiana, and Ohio State. So ultimately, in a perfect world, the identity is to run the football well, thus setting up the pass in a way that does not overcomplicate things for young, inexperienced quarterbacks. But they just haven't done that enough to really say that that's it. So the desired identity, I think, has been pretty consistent all year. What actually shows up on game days, it hasn't been there enough to where you can say, yeah, that's our identity. No, that's their desire. And that needs to be on cue for Michigan to have a chance against Oregon on Saturday.
Defensively, though, still talented, as we alluded to, Brian. I mean, what they keep you in games at this point.
Yeah, no doubt. And Will Johnson's absence last week, we'll see if he can go on Saturday. That'll be a game time thing that we'll find out on the availability reports. We shall see. But that's obviously important. I think the secondary's played pretty well in his absence. It's basically been 2 games. He missed Michigan State. He left early against Illinois 2 weeks prior. So defensively, they're going to have to find a way to get some sort of pressure on the quarterback because of how good Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant are. That's much easier said than done against the offense that Oregon runs and the talent that they possess. But yeah, there are probably 6 NFL guys on this defense, but last year there were 15. Right. And that's still a significant drop-off, even if you do get the year-over-year improvements of guys like Grant, Graham, Johnson. Josiah Stewart's been awesome this year. He was added as a captain. He's been the most ascending player of the defense. So, yeah, it's very talented, but there's still a step back to take because, you know this too, Joey. Like, a lot of people watch, they look at offenses, but Michigan's defense was the best in the country. It was one of the best we've ever seen. Like, I know there was a lot of comparisons, at least here. I don't think that it made it much nationally because of some of the controversies around the program. But, certainly Michigan had a 15-0 season that was at least worth discussing with LSU's 15-0. To me, it's not quite there because the schedule wasn't quite there. But 15-0 LSU's offense in 2019 versus 15-0 Michigan's defense in 2023, I'd pay a lot of money to see that.
Yeah, same. I mean, there's so many of those matchups, and I think that the Oregon connection there, you talk about some of the defenses that Dan Lanning coordinated at Georgia, would love to see those teams match up with each other. Now, I think it's a fascinating example, though, Brian, of the larger college football picture. Offense was so huge. I think Oregon gets a lot of credit, rightfully so, with Chip Kelly for making the offensive identity what it was and scoring so many points. But now I think, Brian, that the pendulum has swung a little bit more back toward defense the last few years. You're seeing more great athletes playing on defense. I feel like the Wolverines, the Ducks, are both good examples of that across the country right now.
Well, I mean, let's look at this. What are the highest paying spots in the NFL? Obviously, number 1 is quarterback.
Right.
And then you're probably, on average, having a better chance to make more money defensively than you are offensively. Because in football, outside of having a great quarterback, the life hack is pass rush with 4.
That's right.
Getting pressure on the quarterback with 4 players so you can drop back 7. So, yeah, linebackers are being devalued similar to running backs. But if you are a defensive back or if you are a defensive lineman, edge rusher type, you can make a lot of money. And I think that's probably part of it. It's interesting, and I'm fascinated how it'll all look once we completely eradicate the 5th and 6th years when it comes to COVID.
Right.
Because I think that's opened the door for some unique quarterback careers.
Agreed.
What will that look like in a year or two? I guess technically there still could be some, maybe Utah will have a 14th year quarterback one of these years or whatever. But I mean, that to me is a fascinating storyline. And that's in really all sports in college. We've seen it in basketball. We've seen it in football. So yeah, I think ultimately, yeah, everybody wants their kid to grow up and be a star quarterback. But beyond that, you're probably more likely to make the secondary big bucks on defense.
Right. All right, lastly, keys to the game. What's it going to take from the Michigan perspective? Also, what's the atmosphere going to be like? What are we going to enjoy in the Big House on Saturday?
So keys for Michigan, they have to get as close to replicating the no turnover, no penalty performance they had against Michigan State. No penalties back-to-back games. That's really hard to do, but no turnovers is probably a requirement. And they have to find a way to get pressure with 4 and force Dylan Gabriel into some sort of chaos in the pocket. Because if Will Johnson does not play, that puts a lot of pressure on an already challenging matchup we had Jason Vance on our broadcast, former NFL guy, great Michigan career. He said that Oregon has the best receivers in the country, and it's tough to argue. And there have been some good ones Michigan has faced, and they've had some success. And that's been with Will Johnson in most of those games. So they got to find a way. And I think offensively, what does this offense look like in a second go-around with a legitimate 2-quarterback system?
Right.
They tried 3 different 1-quarterback systems. None worked. Now they're trying a 2-quarterback system that they are pretty much that's what they have. Jack Tuttle announced his retirement due to medical reasons earlier this week. So this is what they've got. How do they take – the way I've described it is the game against Michigan State, that was the best that Michigan's quarterbacks have played. And it was a necessary step. but they have to take a bigger step that could not have been taken had they not settled the foundation that they showed against the Spartans. And now they got to take it 2-3 steps to have a chance. Right. In terms of atmosphere, it was really good. I was very curious about how it would look against Michigan State, just because they're obviously it's that rivalry is normally a pretty hot topic during the week. It wasn't around here, Michigan State, but the atmosphere was awesome. The place was rocking. It's been fun seeing these new matchups because I know fans from other teams have come in. Now, there have been Michigan-Oregon football games in the past.
Right.
It's been a while, and I think you're going to see plenty of Oregon people there, and that's great. Same thing will be when we make the return trip out to Autzen here soon. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be there's not going to be a ton of confidence necessarily, but I do think it'll be a fun atmosphere. It's one where if Michigan get off to a good start, it should make for a really fun one. And by the end of the game, it should be darker, so you'll get kind of the impact of the lights. And they installed new lights here at the Big House, so for night games, it's pretty awesome. I don't know how much they'll implement for a 3:30 Eastern kick, but that is a cool atmosphere. I wish daylight savings times were a day early because you would really get a feel for it.
Right.
But the Big House is great. It is up there with any, obviously. And I think if Michigan can keep it close for a while, you'll get as close to the full Big House experience as you can get.
Looking forward to it. Brian, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. Look forward to shaking your hand on Friday. Have a good call on Saturday, and thanks again, buddy.
Right back at you, Joey. Be well, safe travels.
Big thank you to Brian Boesch for hanging out, taking time with Joey to have the conversation, to preview this matchup between the Ducks and the Wolverines. And, well, there's a lot more to preview because Oregon women's basketball season is right around the corner. And earlier today, about 2 hours ago at this point, Kelly Graves, right after practice, during practice, he was able to talk to the media. We're getting to KG's conversation previewing the Oregon women's basketball season when we return on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear autumn leaves, you won't be covering roads alone this season. Take on fall in the powerful Toyota Tundra or tackle trails in a Tacoma. Head to Toyota.com for more info. Toyota, let's go places.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Dear autumn leaves, you won't be covering roads alone this season. Take on fall in the powerful Toyota Tundra or tackle trails in a Tacoma. Head to Toyota.com for more info. Toyota, let's go places.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
I'll trust water bottles and a flashlight to save the day, but I'll be proved wrong.
With a tornado approaching, I'll realize that I like a wheelchair-accessible shelter.
When the floodwaters rise, I'll be up in the attic with 20 cans of beans. It's a recipe for disaster.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
You know you make me wanna kick my heels up and throw my hands up and throw my head back and come on now, don't forget to say you will.
Welcome back inside of the Country Financial Studio on Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Just heard the conversation between Joey Mack and Brian Boesch of the Michigan Sports Network, previewing the football game going on Saturday, 12:30, 10:30 pregame show on the Oregon Sports Network. Now we're transitioning. Oregon women's basketball. Their season starts on Monday officially, but there is also a scrimmage that is open to the public tomorrow at 6 p.m. against Warner Pacific. It's a new-look Oregon women's basketball team. There is a whole lot of new transfers, freshmen, players returning like Peyton Scott from injury who barely got to play last year. It's a very new-look Oregon squad. It'll be new-look floor as well, and it's a Kelly Graves who is pretty excited about the outlook of his team this season. Media got to speak with KG this morning. Here's the conversation previewing Oregon women's basketball season.
How nice is it to have, look like all 15 out there for practice? How nice is that to have?
Yeah, great. Yeah, Philly started practicing a couple days ago. She's still limited to about 15 minutes of live action a day. But if we can get 15 minutes out of her tomorrow in the exhibition game, that's a good thing. Solly is going to be out, and we'll see if and when she does get back. She sees a doctor. Could be a kind of a season ending for her. But other than that, yeah, we're healthy. Deja's back, and excited.
Atmosphere looks good. They look excited. They look ready. Do you feel like it's starting to feel like the season is obviously just a day away for you guys from starting?
Yeah, you can tell. Their intensity's been up the last few practices. We've actually played with a ton of energy all year long. It's really been fun because we have competition at every spot. We can go 10 or 11 right now, and and that makes it good. But yeah, I think our kids are amped up and ready to play.
Billy, I know she's coming off the injury, but just watching her kind of footwork there, she seems almost quicker. Am I imagining that? I mean, what does it look like, her progression?
Yeah, well, she's a long way from getting back into game shape, but she's 6'8". She's going to be 6'8" the whole game, and she's a load down there. If she gets positioned, she's really difficult to defend. I'm really excited to see how she does when she gets back to 100%. But yeah, she looks good. You can tell her that. That'll make her feel better.
Talking about competition, have you settled on a starting group for season opener, or is it still kind of ongoing?
Yeah, I think I've got 4 of the 5 that I'm going to go with tomorrow, even though tomorrow won't, it may not be the same lineup. But I think the lineup's going to be fluid for a little while. We don't have a ton of separation yet, so that's a good thing as a coach. It's also a bad thing, we've just got to make sure that it doesn't matter who starts or who finishes. Everybody goes in and contributes. That's what we're looking for. I really appreciated listening to Freddie Freeman last night. Everybody knew he was the MVP or gonna be, and they talked to him about getting 12 RBIs and setting a World Series record, and the first thing he did said, well, my teammates got on base. He deflected every time they tried to give him attention, he deflected it. And that's the same kind of attitude that we need. That's why those guys are champions. Dodgers, 8th world championship.
And talk about another champion. I'm still riding the high of the Liberty game, but how's Oregon going to embody the energy that Sabrina and Niara brought? How do you want to embody that this season?
Well, yeah, we've talked to both just in the last couple of days. It's obviously it was a thrill to see them win it, but yeah, I think anytime you have a championship team, and we've had several here, they just never care about who's getting the attention. Who has a good game or a bad game. I mean, Sabrina struggled in that last game, but Niara picked her up. That's what a true team does. And, and that's what we need to do too. We have to have that same kind of championship spirit.
And what are some of the technical aspects of the Liberty's game throughout the series that you want to bring, or that you saw that you liked?
Yeah, well, Sandy and I are friends. We run a lot of the same stuff. So when Sabrina got there, it was that part was going to be good. Yeah, I just think, how they have different players that can step up in different nights. I think we have that ability too. I think we have, 7 or 8, maybe 9 players that could lead us in scoring on any given game. So as a coach, that's going to be a lot of fun to see. But yeah, they got a championship. I would love to get that for us too. That would be really nice. So that would be the biggest similarity that I would love to see.
Talking about that correlation, despite the Dodgers obviously having a lot of the same people, they also had a lot of new pieces. Oregon, very similar. You have some returning pieces, but you have a lot of new pieces. What's going to be the key to making sure this group is cohesive, especially at the beginning of the season, to make sure they can kind of continue to grow on that throughout the season?
Well, we've done a lot of stuff off the court to really kind of build team camaraderie. I think you watch out here, and we've had people here at multiple practices. You see that they all kind of cheer for each other, and I love that. So the dynamic now is terrific. I love what we got going on. But then when you start playing, and players are playing more than others, and some who aren't playing as much feel like they need to play more. That's where you sometimes can get into issues, but I really don't see that's going to be a problem with these guys. I've said it 100 times. How about I say I'm excited one more time? But I truly am. I can't wait to just see what we've got.
How will you evaluate the exhibition? Is it just mainly just seeing what you've got out there?
Yeah, everybody's going to play. We want to stay healthy. That's the main thing. Let's get through the game healthy. And I just want us to play hard. Bobby Knight, rest in peace. We lost him in the last year or so. I know there was a lot of negative surrounding him, but he had a great line that I've used many times. We play against ourselves. The opponent's our potential. So we can't worry about, we need to worry about us and play at the best of our abilities. Sometimes, some games this year, we've got a big-time schedule. We might play a great game and lose. Sometimes we might play a poor game and win. But for us, we just want to be consistent. We want to play the best that we can each and every game. So that's what I'm looking for tomorrow.
Is there anyone you've noticed from last year's roster returning that you've seen a big step in the right direction, a lot of improvement, and who might that be?
Yeah, well, Peyton Scott, just having her here healthy, but she's up to her game even to what it was at this point, last year before she got hurt. I think Sophia Bell, has improved. But of our returners, I really feel like Sarah Rambus has taken that next step forward. And we need her, especially early in the season when Philly may not be 100%. She gives us a presence in the middle.
Does Payne look hungrier than even a season ago, considering, coming off the injury and not getting the chance to play last year?
Well, Peyton's an old woman. This is her 6th year at this. So she understands that this is it for her. And, so I anticipate she's going to just give the maximum effort every single day, every practice, every game. So I think all of our seniors, they've all gotten together on a couple of occasions. We have 5 seniors and 6 if you count Nani. I think, they're hungry. They're hungry. A lot of them haven't been to the NCAA tournament, and this gives them one last chance to do so. And I think we're certainly a good enough team to get there.
Yeah, a lot of the players have mentioned that they kind of have a chip on their shoulder coming here and wanting to get Oregon back to where it should be. Have you seen that play out in practice? Just got a lot of highly touted recruits that have done a lot of winning, but have that chip on the underdog chip on their shoulder. Yeah,
I have. I see it each and every day. Again, it goes back to we have 7 transfers, all of whom played big roles. Mostly bigger roles on other teams, so they're here expecting to play. So we've got to just make sure that we, we're all going towards that same goal. The Minnesota football coach, right? We're all rowing the boat, and that's just got to be our biggest thing.
Coach, you've obviously watched a lot of World Series wins in Dodger history. I'm just wondering, where does this latest one rank in your eyes?
Well, the championship, among the top. There's no comparison to '88, though. They were going against the powerful A's, and obviously the way it started with the Gibby's homer in Game 1, and then to see it happen again, that was really cool. I do not like the Yankees, so that was also nice. But '88's still my favorite. I mean, it was just so improbable that year, and baseball's such a great sport. Even last night, you have to get 27 outs. There's no time limit. You can't dribble the game out. You can't stall. You need 27 outs, and anything can happen, as we saw. So it's a great lesson.
If you wanted to make it in a career in basketball, you think you would have stuck with baseball then?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love baseball, and I've always loved the Dodgers, the Pirates, the Red Sox. Those are my 3 teams, and the Mariners. But Mariners got to give us more to cheer about. But it just, when I was 7 years old, my dad took me to my first Dodger game. First baseball game, and it was the Dodgers. We also went to Disneyland. So we made that family trip, and I just fell in love with baseball, and then obviously played my whole life, coached my boys probably 10 years, Little League. So it's a big part of, who I am and what I love. So it was really cool to see the Dodgers do it. Dodgers Red Sox is the series we need to see. Then I can just sit back and drink a beer with Hayden, and just enjoy the game. Yeah.
Kelly Graves. Congratulations to Kelly Graves, Alex Stimson, all the other Dodgers fans in the office. Yeah, I mean, congrats. That's fine. All right, we got more women's basketball coming up when we return. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey Duck fans, at Country Financial, they make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, auto, or more, their representatives will take the time to understand your specific needs and explain what options work best for you. Worry less and feel more confident knowing you're covered. Visit countryfinancial.com to get started today. Experience more with Country Financial. Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
This is Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Comes to a gun suicide attempt, all it takes is a moment.
My son Ricky took his life by the use of a firearm. It broke me, and I contemplated suicide. My grandson, I was gonna have to be here for him. I still own my firearm. I keep it in a safe because I want to keep my grandson and myself safe.
Store your guns, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo. Hear more safe stories at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
This message is for Shauna, my mom who just finished her high school diploma. I wanted to say I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You taught me it's never too late to achieve your dreams. I hope to make you as proud as you have made me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Welcome back on Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union here in the Country Financial Studio. Ryan Milano with you here on a Thursday. Just heard from the coach of the women's basketball team, Kelly Graves. Now let's get to one of the transfers. Won't be able to get to all of the interview with Alexis Whitfield, but we'll get to the most of it, and it's up on the Go Ducks YouTube channel. Let's hear from the transfer from UC Santa Barbara.
Welcome to Oregon. What's it been like just acclimating to this team and getting ready for your first season with the Ducks?
It's been great so far. We got a lot of new faces, so I think that's definitely made it an easier transition. Everyone just wants to go hard all the time, so the energy in here is always flowing. Can just expect a lot of talking, just getting after it every day, and we just compete all the time. So it's just a great environment to be a part of, really.
You've had experience, obviously, going to a couple of different schools. Do you feel like that's given you advantage this time around, just kind of, being able to acclimate a little bit quicker? And what's that experience been like?
Definitely. This is the time of year where the days start to slowly build up, but, we're getting close to our goal. Obviously, the first game's coming up. So everything just pays off as you just keep stacking those days. And then, obviously being older, knowing the flow of the speed of the game at this point, that definitely makes this transition easier. But, going into a whole new conference, Big Ten play is going to be different, so going to get used to that. But I'm excited for everything that it has to offer, very offensive-oriented conference. So excited to see how that is, and I think it's going to be a great year. Definitely going to be a great year.
What's been the vibe of this team, especially with a bunch of transfers that, are hungry? They want to win a championship, and now they've all kind of come together here in Eugene to try and achieve that goal?
Definitely competitive. We're just getting after it, making sure we're competitive on both ends, offensive, defensive. Everyone knows that they have their things that they're really good at, and making sure that you do your abilities to the best of your job. So everyone takes pride in their job, no matter what it is. Everyone's just going to come in here, work as hard as they can while we're on the court, give it our all. We're going to dive for balls because we have depth. So it definitely makes you want to just keep going harder and harder because, you put your time in, someone's going to get you, and we're going to keep it going. So it's a nice flow. Yeah.
What's the competition been like? You spoke on the depth. I mean, how tough is it, when you're, 15 deep?
I think everyone, like, in each spot, it's just we're all competing, you know. Got some great knockdown shooters, some great pull-up jumpers, some posts, obviously Philly. She's doing great. Everyone's just stepping into their role pretty effortlessly, and, you know, we just compete with each other just because we know if we're pushing each other to do best, then when it comes time for the game, we're going to do our best. Competition-wise, you know, I don't know if you guys caught the end of our practice there. No one likes to win, but I mean, no one likes to lose. So we keep going until that last shot goes up. But everyone just gets after it every day, really. But once we finish practice, we're just as tight on the outside of the court too. So it's a nice team to have, honestly.
Yeah, I know this is your first year here, only a couple months here.
Yeah.
But is there anything unique about that you've noticed already in your couple months here?
Definitely the fan base. You know, the Oregon fan base is unmatched. They come out and support whenever, however they can, and then just the community. Like, I've gone to, I think, 6 different community things now, and each time, like, I see the same people, which is amazing because it just shows how much they really care for the players. Now I get to know their names, and I know they're going to start showing up to games, and then, you know, just all the kids that love to come out and support, they're always there, their parents bringing them, you know, that's a special thing to have and makes you want to keep going harder so that younger generation can keep looking up to you.
And speaking on that community, just, I know you're new, but learning about the Sabrina kind of legacy here and Niara as well, what has Coach said about that and kind of their impact on Oregon, and how can kind of you emulate something similar or create your own, be your own Sabrina, sorry.
No, you're fine. Well, obviously watching them in the WNBA playoffs, you know, that was amazing. I think Niara is a great one that he really focused on her, you know. Before the playoffs, she wasn't necessarily doing as much as she did, and you look at her last 5 games probably, she was a high impact player for them, you know, and that kind of just correlates as to, like, our depth, like, doing your job the same way as to the best of your ability, because when it's your time to be called on, we know, like, you have to fit those shoes, and that's exactly what she did. So pretty much, like, yeah, Niara, like, she came in, she worked hard, and she took her moment, and that's, like, pretty much what we all know. Like, when it's your moment, we're going to take it. And obviously her teammates are a big part in that, and that's the same thing with us. Like, our teammates help lift us to the occasion at all times. So definitely them. And then Sabrina, you know, she's just amazing. She's a GOAT. So she's the same way I would say Scotty is, you know, just sound, like, is always going to help her teammates, you know, always going to keep pushing us to be better, and everyone's going to race to that occasion right along with her. So, yeah.
I love that answer from Alexis Whitfield. A little bit of high praise for Morgan Scott as well. Big-time stuff, getting into women's basketball season. Remember the scrimmage tomorrow coming up for women's basketball. First time you get to see them, and then game time is going to be on Monday. Also tomorrow, cross-country Big Ten championships at the University of Illinois. It'll be aired on the Big Ten Network beginning at 8:30 in the morning. The women's 6K will start, and then the 8K for the men at 9:30. Also, it's the Duck Invitational for women's tennis, as the Ducks will face off against Seattle, Idaho, and Boise State, free to the public at the Student Tennis Center tomorrow morning starting at 9:30 in the morning. Scott, you look good, buddy. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Go Ducks.
You said you'd never buy your kid candy from the checkout aisle. Or forget extra diapers. You'd never lick your thumb to clean their face. Never, ever become a minivan mom. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, no, it can happen. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk in temperatures as low as 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Never